Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dream Star Grand Prix daily review series here on the YouTube channel. And boy, oh boy, do we have a show to talk about today as MARIGOLD headed over to Korakuen Hall for the first time in this year's tournament, and they did not let us down. Of course, your main event was Utami Hayashishita versus Mayu Iwatani. You can hear my excitement as I prepare, get myself looking forward to talking about that one. But we have so much to talk about here throughout the show. Thank you, everyone, for joining me once again for a very special tournament recording. I'm doing this right after the show, so another instant reaction, trying to get these up as quickly as possible for all of you, and just to get my full, genuine thoughts. Listen, I'm just going to say this at the very top. There is no match that I've watched during tournament season that has made me feel the way that that main event did. And it comes down to so many factors. But we'll save that for later. We'll save that for later. I'm giddy getting ready to talk about it. But just a fantastic, fantastic main event and a really strong show that felt like the show that the Dream Star was waiting for. You know, we only have a few shows left. We have, Shinjuku on Tuesday, the weekend next week, and then it's the finals. But this final stretch feels very exciting. And it's a show like this that, again, kind of reminds you of where we're going and what we're doing. So yeah, we're going to get into the show. Before we get there, if you haven't checked it out, check out everything I've been doing here on the channel. Obviously, we have been doing the daily series. If you haven't checked that out yet, you could check out the end of the 5-star Grand Prix if that interests you. Of course, that ended last weekend, so maybe you've already checked it out. But you can also check out the Day 7 edition of the Dream Star Grand Prix review series that featured a special review of Go Chika and Mayu Iwatani as well. But as we dropped on Friday, you can check out the 5-star Joshi show. We dove more into Momo Watanabe winning the 5-star Grand Prix, Miyu Watanabe winning the Tokyo Princess Cup, Senjo the biggest, and so much more. So please go check all that out. But listen, I know you're here for tournament talk. I know you're here for tournament review, and I am here to do just that. So let's get into it. Day 8 of the Dream Star Grand Prix, live from Korakuen Hall, the big time signature main event, sitting and waiting in the wings throughout this show. It's an 8 tournament matches on this show, starting with the face off between Darkness Revolution members Rea Seto and CHIAKI. A fascinating aspect of this show was that it was all heels to start the show. You had Darkness Revolution versus Darkness Revolution. You had Misa Matsui versus Kizuna Tanaka. You had Go Chika versus Nozaki, and you even had Maria versus Victoria Yuzuki. For me, I think this match, was an obviously difficult one to follow because the heel versus heel dynamic can be difficult, especially for someone like a Rea Seto who is still trying to learn that role. Someone who's trying to learn that role, and CHIAKI, who I think we can all admit isn't the strongest worker in this tournament by far, and it's tough to make that mix. I think it's different from when we see Nozaki versus Matsui, for example, because that is two definitive roles that I think work to both of their advantages. Meanwhile, for these two, it's a lot of they're both figuring things out along the way. So I think that kind of plays to it. This match was definitely my least favorite of the show. It lacked the excitement that I think I'd like to see out of an opener. But I understood why it went first. You have the heels go face to face. I would have switched this with Misa and Kizuna. I think that would have been a little bit hotter of a start. But a lot of this match was CHIAKI kind of absolutely dominating throughout the early portion with um, Rea Seto trying to fight back. Her main fight back into this match. She reversed CHIAKI's chokeslam at one point. CHIAKI also went for the spear. She got caught in a headlock by Rea Seto. So those were good little spots. At one point, the ref was taken out. but Rea was able to drop kick CHIAKI and the chair out of her hand, then crushed CHIAKI with a chair shot in the head, so giving CHIAKI her comeuppance per se. CHIAKI would definitely hit a cannonball in the corner, which was nice. I like to see a little bit of additions for CHIAKI, especially throughout here, and I thought that was a good spot. She followed that out with a psycho driver, but that was a quick Rea pin. Rea would then get a flash pin on CHIAKI to steal the win and earn a much needed win for herself. So congrats to Rea Seto on the big win. One, like I said, that was much needed for her. It's always nice to see these moments, I think, for wrestlers. I think it's always nice to see these spots happen. And for Rea Seto, this was the first win for her. So it was a nice moment. And maybe it is her only win, but it was a nice moment in Korakuen Hall for her. Next up, we had Kizuna Tanaka versus Misa Matsui. I really enjoyed this match. I think this was quite easily the best Kizuna Tanaka performance of the tournament thus far. And when it comes to Kizuna Tanaka, I'm not looking for a blowaway match of the tournament contender or anything like that. You're just looking for the building blocks that she can use to grow. And I think her and Matsui matched up very well to do that. This was one of the matches for Kizuna I was most looking forward to because I think it can kind of fit her comfort zone, I think, for her as a wrestler right now, and it did just that. She came out shooting like a rocket with drop kicks after drop kicks after drop kicks. Seeing her mom in the crowd was a really cool moment to see that, and especially with how this match paid off. Kizuna was a great underdog in this match. Matsui has big wins in this tournament, specifically against Miku, so seeing her fight through that, seeing her battle through that, and compete to the level that she did was really exciting. She's such a natural underdog, right? A natural babyface. So it's great to see. They made their way out to ringside, into the chairs as we often see with all these heel stuff. It became a running gag in the 5-star daily review. So it's going to be here just multiple times on this show. But there was a great spot. Misa Matsui was piling all these chairs, and Kizuna would hit a fisherman suplex on Misa Matsui into the chairs. That was a great spot. Kizuna's fired up, and that was really, really cool to see for her. Again, you want to see her fired up. You want to see her pumped. You want to see her believe in herself. I think that's always such an important part of these tournament matches, of these big singles matches. You want to see the new wrestlers believe in themselves, and I think that's what we saw here. Um, they get into the ring. Fisherman suplex fall out by Kizuna for a nice little near fall. Misa Matsui battle back, hitting a big time Basaiku knee. Kizuna would get to her feet, kick Matsui, but Matsui would fall through with another Basaiku knee, taking out Kizuna Tanaka. Kizuna was on her last legs, looking for something, looking for any way to steal a victory, and that is what she did. Getting the heat clutch pin, which is a move done by her father, Minoru Tanaka, in his career to get the victory. I think the beauty of Kizuna Tanaka is when she gets to add these little things from her parents' work. I think that is such a lovely piece of her growth and her future, really, is seeing how she takes from her parents and develops that into something more. This was her best performance of the tournament. Misa Matsui continuously is just such a strong wrestler, and she was here again. Really enjoyed this one. You then had Chika Goto versus Nagisa Nozaki. This kind of ended up being the comedic match of the show, but I didn't hate it. I think it actually kind of worked to where it was on the card. I think it worked to, kind of a change up from the very serious matches. Yes, it's a tournament. Yes, match. Yes, we love Chika Goto. Yes, Nozaki is the big heel, but I think this kind of worked in their favor of being a comedic, fun match to watch. I think that's kind of how I felt ultimately taking this one in is they kind of nailed what I was hoping for, and that was entertainment. Chika stormed Nozaki in the early going, just going right at her, big time forms, and just bringing it. But that didn't last long. Nozaki would turn the tables on her. She'd start chopping her in the chest time and time and time and time and time and time and time again. Uh, Gochika's poor chest was red before this match was even 5 minutes in. But Goshiko would come back eventually in the match, hit a big time lariat, which was a great spot. Nozaki would then come back around, hit a nice missile dropkick from the top rope, and then we'd make our way outside. Little did I know when we made our way outside, this would happen to be closing in on the finish, but a very entertaining finish at that, and we'll talk about that here. So, you know, Goshi gets thrown into the chairs. Nozaki is looking to just continuously take advantage of the heel tactics. By the way, Gochiko was thrown into the chairs by Chiaki, so full on Darkness Revolution takeover here, which is always an interesting aspect of any match. Uh, but Gochika fought back. Gochika fought back in a big way. As the ref is counting, she gets the swing on Nozaki outside the ring. She's going, she's going, she's going. The ref is counting, the ref is counting. She's going, she's going. And I'm just sitting there like, is she not gonna let go? Like, is she so locked in? You know, she's so lost, she's so dizzy. And ultimately the bell rings. So this is the second count out for Nozaki, second count out finish for Nozaki, which is admittedly very funny. But this was entertaining. And that's again what I'm looking for, because I think you get your great matches later. Um, this didn't need to be a great match. It needed to be entertaining. And that's what it was for me. The only thing that I would have critiqued was trying to watch Go Chika walk back to the ring as dizzy as she was. Like, that would have been very funny and still not make it. Like, I still would have had them go to the double count out. I think that would be the only thing I would have done. Maybe start to swing a little sooner than, it gets to 19 and she's like, oh no. And then, she's stumbling and bumbling everywhere because she's dizzy. But really entertaining match. Not everyone's going to really enjoy how this went. But I was entertained, and honestly, that's all I care about. So that was a ton of fun. Then we moved on to Victoria Yuzuki versus Maria. I got to shout out Maria in the opening ceremony that they do before every set of tournament matches. Maria brought a picture of Yuzuki out that she drew on to, mock her, and they're taking pictures, they're doing everything. And Maria's just turning around showing Yuzuki the photo, and everyone is laughing. Everyone is breaking at it. It was so funny. Yuzuki's like trying just to be serious, and Maria's just the opposite of that. So that was a lot of fun. But to get to the match itself, I thought this was quite good. And I think it's the continuation of Yuzuki just embodying what an MVP is, embodying what the MVP of a tournament can be. And I think that is what she has become. She's getting the best out of everyone in the tournament. I think that's an interesting aspect. She may not have one of those matches that I'll walk away saying so far, that's like, wow, that was match of the tournament or something. But she has been consistent. She has been the most consistent wrestler in this tournament. Each one of her matches has hit a certain level. The Kouki one from day 7, if you want to go check out that review, was a nice surprise. She really brought the best out of Kouki there. And now you watch this with Maria. Maria's been hit or miss. Maria has, sometimes she doesn't seem like she cares, sometimes she does. This match, Maria was not given the choice. Victoria Yuzuki was going to make sure she cared. Big time back and forth between the two. They make their way to the outside into the chairs, but it was Yuzuki throwing her into the chairs, which is a good spot. Always funny seeing Yuzuki kind of, just be herself. Her character isn't a pure baby face. She kind of got, she's a little bit of a jerk sometimes, and it's in a good way. She's confident, and it's a very different change from maybe someone from her experience level, and it gets her far enough. She hits the crossbody to the outside, which was great. Then she has Maria in the ring, laying on the ropes. She's on the apron. She gets that picture that I was talking about earlier from the opening ceremonies and smashes Maria in the skull with that thing. A great spot, and she was so proud of herself. Like I said, she kind of likes to be a little bit of a jerk, and it's just that was awesome. I loved that spot. Absolutely loved that spot. That was followed up by Maria getting back into the match with the octopus hold. That was a great submission. She then started to face brush uh, Yuzuki, followed by a big time boot to the face. She then hit this great, powerful, gorilla press into a stomach kick on Yuzuki for a nice little near fall. I thought that was great. And then we kind of got into the closing stretch. You know, Yuzuki's going for the rolling arrow, and Maria reversed it for a great near fall. That was followed up by Yuzuki getting back into it. Super kick, backdrop, but that was followed by a rocket kick from Maria. But ultimately, Yuzuki catches Maria for her new side out slam thing. I don't know what she calls it, before hitting the victory shooting to pin Maria and get the victory, moving her to 8 points in the tournament. So at this point of the tournament, Yuzuki is 4-1. All she has left is Rea Seto and Shinjuku Face and Mayu Iwatani on the final night of the GP. Yuzuki is big time in this conversation, big time in the opportunity to qualify for that final out of the Dream League. Yes, she's got to go through a rival in Rea Seto. Yes, she's got to go through her mentor, Mayu Iwatani. But that's what you want to see out of someone like Yuzuki, who has consistently delivered in each and every match she's been in, this one included. Quite enjoyed it. We then had Kouki Amarei versus Seri Yamaoka. This was a major match for both of them. A loss for Seri Yamaoka would effectively eliminate her from the tournament with Mayu and Utami in such big positions later in the night. For Kouki Amarei, it could continue some success that we've been seeing from her, especially as of late, right? You know, Kouki got the big win over Yuzuki on the last show. She's carrying confidence, and now she steps into the ring with Seri Yamaoka. Seri Yamaoka is in a very interesting spot because she started off super strong, right? She pinned Mayu Iwatani on the opening night in that main event. A major, major moment. So you fast forward to now. She has dropped 2 matches through that time, including against Utami Hayashishita and Victoria Yuzuki, 2 people I think she's going to be considering rivals. So this was a major match, and I think this match kind of went as I expected. There were moments I liked, moments that were a little bit off. You know, it could be rough, and not surprisingly, I'd say. Right on one side, you have an 8-month rookie, and while I think Seri Yamaoka is one of the most exciting wrestlers in all of pro wrestling, one of my true favorite wrestlers right now, she's still an 8-month rookie. She can't necessarily carry someone through a match yet, right? She's still learning herself. And on the other hand, you have someone in Kouki Amarei who has been in a continuous uh, topic of discussion in terms of where is she in her growth? Where is she right now, right post that knee injury? Because she had found it. Now she's trying to build herself back up. That's kind of where this was. And I think what for me this match was missing to get to a level of me walking away being like, yeah, that was good. Um, was more offense for Seri Yamaoka. A lot of this match was Kouki on offense, which I found interesting because the moments when Seri would finally get her offense in were the most exciting, the most inviting moments. You know, she hits that big time drop kick after getting really worked over for a lot of the match. You know, Kouki had leg submission on, camel clutch on. She went for the Boston Crab twice, but Seri Yamaoka got her little moments, and I guess the purpose of the match was to maybe show she's not there yet. While Kouki, who beat Yuzuki, is finding that she can have confidence and she can find the winning formula. They went to the outside. Seri hit a flapjack to Kouki onto the apron. They get into the ring, which is where Kouki would hit a cutter, but that was followed by an awesome German suplex from Seri Yamaoka. But Kouki got back up, hit a nice drop kick to end that. She then hit a dominator on Seri Yamaoka, which would lead to a butterfly attempt, but she would miss that from the top rope. Yamaoka would hit an awesome spear, gut wrench, Northern Light suplex, all for a near fall. Kouki would get back on the offensive though, and that would mark the end of this one. She hits the backdrop suplex, hits the butterfly, and gets the win, effectively knocking out Seri Yamaoka and giving herself a great chance. Yes, Kouki has lost to CHIAKI. Yes, she's lost to Maria, but she's now going against the top two contenders in this field, right? She has Utami and Mayu left. Those are major, major matches for Kouki and major chances. If she loses, she's going to be eliminated, but she now heads into Shinjuku Face on Tuesday with a shot against the Icon. In terms of Suri Yamaoka, I think for me, maybe my bigger letdown is that she's not in contention on the final night. Now she'll look good because listen, she's facing Rea Seto, she's facing Maria on the next two nights. I think you got to give her those wins. I think those are very important wins for her on the final two nights. I think that is imperative to her in overall tournament to have her finish 4-3 because again, this is someone in Suri Yamaoka. I think many of us believe is going to be ready for one of those top two titles somewhere next year. At least that's how I feel. And I want her to still finish strong despite being effectively eliminated now following the loss. The match overall had its ups and downs. It had some moments I liked, had some moments I didn't. But overall, Kouki gets the big win. Seri loses. So I'm sad, naturally. But yeah, that was that one. Now we move on to really, I think, a final stretch here that is probably the best final stretch um overall. You know, I think this is the best final stretch you could ask for in terms of this tournament. I think it's the best final stretch you could ask for in terms of getting people excited for this tournament moving into the final few weeks. Because I think for me, when I watch these matches, it showcases the top of the top, right? Starting with Miku Ano. Miku Ano has not wrestled since night one of the tournament where she drew against MIRAI and lost to Misa Matsui. So the deck has been built, right? Like Miku Ano needs to win. That is the rest of her tournament. It is imperative that she wins because Mai Sakurai has one match left. She sits at 8 points. As of this match, Miku Ano had one. The rest of her tournament is must see because she needs to win. She needs to. And it all started here. Her and Chanyota did exactly what I hoped they would do. Run into each other with shoulder blocks, run into each other with lariats, run into each other as many times as you possibly could, and just decimate one another. I absolutely love that. That's what it's all about. That stuff rules. Chanyota is very, very simple. She's gonna hit you with lariats, gonna hit you with more lariats and more lariats. She turned Miku inside out a few times during this match, but Miku comes back. I think the beauty of what Miku does, and one of my main takeaways from this overall show is this tournament has been missing Miku Aono. Miku Aono is one of, if not the best, in this promotion. That is how it goes, right? It's Utami, yes, it's Utami and Mayu, obviously. But Miku Ano is trying and putting in the work to prove she is there. And this was another case of her showing she is there in her first return. I wrote for one note here, ouch. That's all I wrote. I didn't need to say anything else. I just needed to write ouch because there were moments in this match when they were crushing each other with lariats where I was just like, oh my God. You know, there was one time that Chanyota like stops and grabs her neck, and I was like, oh, that one hurt. But I just wrote lariat so many times here. Miku Ano hit a great raid maker on Chanyota, but Chanyota came back with a knee breaker, so lifting her up and dropping Miku right on her knees. That was followed by another lariat, a great lariat. Another lariat by Chanyota for a great near fall. But Miku Ano is in desperation mode. Miku Ano is must win mode. and that is the importance of where she goes from here. She hits the Saito suplex, um, which Chanyota was able to fight through, hit a big lariat, but she got head kicked, and that's what spelled the end for her. Once Mikuano brought back those kicks and brought those kicks to full effect, hitting her in the head, it was lights out. It was good night. It was see you later. That's what this told you. That's what this became. Ultimately, it was a styles clash for Mikuano to get the victory and pin Chanyota, get her first win in the tournament, get her to 3 points. This is the math you need to know. Mikuano has 4 matches left. She has Mai Sakurai on the final night, but she also has Kizuna Tanaka next, Chika Goto, and Nagisa Nozaki. She is on the remainder of these tournament shows. If she wins 2 out of the next 3, she can head into the final night with a chance. That is the conversation point we're at. Now, Nagisa Nozaki has 2 matches left, one against Miku Aono and one against Misa Matsui. It's a must win for Miku Aono to beat Nagisa Nozaki. That is the must win of the entire tournament right now for Miku Aono. She's got to win out, obviously, or mostly win out. I think she can kind of afford one loss but it depends. She can afford one loss if it's not to Nozaki. But Miku Aono is the story of the Star League right now. She now has her first win. She's now at 3 points, and she's now building. And this match was a sign of I'm so happy Miku Aono is here. Awesome stuff from these two. Speaking of awesome stuff, I thought Mai Sakurai and Mirai had the best singles match they've ever had against one another. And it was a very emotional match. As you could see in their post matches, they shed tears. You know, the former Mirai Saku duo facing off in what I thought was truly a great match. I wish the crowd was louder for this one specifically. I think the crowd really got into the main event, especially, which obviously they should have. But if the crowd was more into this, I think this would have an even higher rating for me. But this was a great match, like top of the line, great match. Um, just awesome stuff between these two. Awesome big fight feel stuff. Mirai was working the leg brutally of Mai Sakurai to a point where she just kicked her in the leg one time and it felt like the leg snapped. But Mai Sakurai and the beauty of the way she bounces back, the way she fights back, and really the beauty of her overall pro wrestling is that it's not perfect. It isn't pretty, but it's effective, and that's what she does best. It's effective. Um, Mai was beasting at one point. She hits a big elbow drop, but Mirai turned that into a 6 submission hold on the ground. Mai Sakurai eventually get back onto the STF for a great spot. They get to their feet, and Mai Sakurai would hit a full-on forearm to the back of Mirai's skull. That was nasty. That was just unreal. Follow that with an STO and get a but that would be reversed by Mirai, who would get the twist flash pin for a nice near fall. She'd hit a Miramare shock. The flash Miramare shock, I should say. That was a good near fall. She'd get Mai Sakurai to her feet and destroyed her. Destroyed her with a Rainmaker for a great near fall. Mai Sakurai would battle back, continue to show that fight. She would hit a nasty headbutt on the top rope to Mirai and follow that up with a top rope glorious driver. That was terrifying. A terrifying move, but also all the more awesome. A fantastic spot there, but Mirai would come back again, hit her with an absolute haymaker, and as she charged up for the big time lefty lariat, she got caught by Mai Sakurai, who would lock in the STF, trap Mirai in the STF, and make Mirai go to sleep. A stunner, an absolute stunner. This felt like the Mirai match, the big Mirai win, but that was not the case. Rather, the United National Champion gets a major victory, her final victory, mind you, ahead of the finals. This was it. This was it for Mai Sakurai. Ultimately, she is 4-2 heading into the final night with a massive win over Mirai, a stunner, which leaves Mirai at just 3 points with 3 matches to go. Now, Mirai isn't out, but she's gonna need to win a lot to have a shot. This felt like a win for me watching that, almost needed to be a Mirai win. So it was a real stunner. It was a real stunner. And it was really emotional in the post match. Like I said, they shared a lot of tears, a lot of love for one another. Um, I hope they face off again. But, sometimes I think another or important aspect of any time someone pins the United National Champion, maybe it's to lead to another title match, and maybe that's just not the road we're going down. Mai has lost, and if Mai lost here, she wouldn't be in real contention for the final night. So maybe that's a different aspect as well. Maybe they want that final match to be the end all be all. So I can understand that. A bummer for Mirai, who was fantastic in this match, but a fantastic match nonetheless. I would recommend you go check this one out. But let's get to that main event. Utami Hayashishita versus Mayu Iwatani. What's there to say about a match that is my favorite tournament match completely of either tournament? Just any tournament. I've watched every turn, but this is why I love pro wrestling. This is a match that if I just showed you why I love pro wrestling, it would be this. It is the greatest of all time, Mayu Iwatani. I've said it many times. I'll say it again. There is no one in the history of pro wrestling that I have watched that gets me more invested in her matches than Mayu. And you had the big fight feel, for the first time since 2023. Two fantastic rivals, two wrestlers that I think work so fantastically against one another, go head to head. They face off. And what they do in that match is put on greatness. What they do in that match is deliver in every way and then some. I think in many ways for me, they exceeded expectations because tournament wrestling can be difficult to, I think, fully capture the imagination and hopes until, you say the final, right? These two captured the big world title, whatever feel, the ultimate match. There's a reason that, when you looked at the schedule and you saw this cork and this was the match you circled. And my God, I don't know if she has seen the comments over the past year. I don't know if anything bothers her to the point where she would really care. But Utami Hayashishita, you are on a mother truck and roll right now. You are reminding people how truly fantastic you are. You are reminding people why you have for so long been one of the best wrestlers on the planet. And there is no one better for you to remind people of that than against one of your true best rivals in Mayu Iwatani. These two have been waiting for this match. That was my ultimate takeaway from this match. These two are meant to wrestle one another, and it shouldn't be a shock. The wrestler on one side, and Utami Hayashishita, who wrestled Io Sky last year in one of the best matches of the year as her base, could do the same with the other half of the Thunder Rock duo. Not a shock. I've seen these two deliver greatness. There was just something extra to this. Maybe it's because it's the first time they had met in a while. Maybe it's because it's the um, main event of a Korakuen. I don't know. But what I do know is this. Utami Hayashishita is at the top of her game right now. What I also do know is that Mayu Iwatani is the greatest of all time, the best in the world, all these different things, the icon, whatever. Mayu never slows down. Mayu just feels like she only gets better and better. And the beauty of this match and the beauty of the story of this match was Utami, someone who has beaten Mayu before. She knows how to beat Mayu Iwatani. She showed up with a game plan and a story that was, I know you. And not only do I know you, I know how to beat you. That was the story of this match. That was the story laid out in front of you. And that was the story that was told. A beautiful story in that. Every time Mayu tried to get offense, Utami had an answer. And Utami, the smart one that she is, was working the hell out of Mayu's back. That was going to be the detrimental point to Mayu if Mayu wanted to win. At one point, she gets a brutal single leg crab on Mayu in the early going. She is hitting forearms to the back of Mayu Iwatani throughout. And when Mayu Iwatani looks like she's going to finally get on the offensive, hit that bread and butter, roll through, drop kick to the face on Utami from the corner, Utami instead hits her with a drop kick. That was just such a great spot. So perfectly done. But eventually Mayu's going to get back into it. And when Mayu gets back into it, it's going to get nasty because you have been controlling her for so much of this match. She starts hitting Utami with some nasty, nasty, nasty kicks. She hits her with a big time bottom rope drop kick, and that brings us to the big time suicide dive as Mayu washes out Utami with a great, great dive to the outside. As Mayu goes running towards Utami, Utami does a back drop to Mayu, and she goes crashing onto her back again, working towards that back. As they roll back into the ring, we trade forearms, but Utami turns Mayu out with an insane lariat. And again, another moment where Mayu is trying to get on the offensive and she's caught by Utami. The story of this match was Utami having the answers of the icon, having the answers of someone who she's wrestled time and time again in classics, in major, major matches. I am going to take you out. She catches her for a big time deadlift German suplex. Insane spot. Mayu rolls through and plants her with a German, followed by a nasty dragon suplex. Mwah, beautiful. But Utami catches a head kick by Mayu and hits a nasty power bomb. All even once again. All even. Crowds rocking. Crowds ready. We're cooking. Big time lariat once again from Utami. Then Utami locks in that sleeper and she's trying to choke out Mayu. A great struggle here in the ring. A great moment here in the ring where Mayu's got to escape. Utami hits a torture rack bomb for a great near fall. Utami gets back on the defensive. Mayu's looking for the best poison rana ever, but Utami stops her again. Again, this is the story of this. Utami has faced Mayu in wins and losses. She knows what she's going to go for. She knows where she's going to be. And that was the story of this match. Utami hits her with a big time headbutt. They get to the top rope, and Mayu goes crashing down, takes a big time air raid crash to the floor. She looks for that BT bomb, but Mayu answers with a Rana and a great near fall, a great pin. She then hits a nice crucifix bomb for a near fall before falling up with the triplet kicks. She crushes Utami's face one after another, and followed by the moonsault for another kick out. Just fucking beautiful pro wrestling. But there is maybe no spot that connected with me more, maybe this year, than this one. As she goes for the best poison rana ever, Mayu Iwatani goes to the top. She looks like she slips. Maybe she doesn't, but no. That's the beautiful controlled craziness that is Mayu Iwatani. She's instead caught by Utami, who hits the two-step dragon suplex on Mayu for a incredible near fall. She then picks up Mayu, lawn darts her, hits her with a headbutt. Every time Mayu looked like she had one final breath, Utami had the answer. And if Utami had a little more time, she was going to win this match. That was the story of this match. She had the answer. She had the story. She had the destruction. That was the beauty of this match. She ultimately hits the BT bomb on Mayu, but the time runs out. This match was phenomenal. This match was the best tournament match I have watched this year. I have watched tournament matches from every tournament imaginable. And listen, I don't really, you can disagree with me. I don't care. This match was everything. This match just felt like everything to me. I love these two wrestlers, and these two wrestlers at their peak, it's hard to be better than them. Utami was phenomenal. Utami's game plan, her story in this match was tremendous. Mayu following with that story and continuously taking the nastiest bumps, taking the nastiest spots, and continuing to fight is what made this match so incredibly perfect. These two have so much clear love and appreciation for each other. You saw it in the post match, folks. There was an unbelievable amount of love and appreciation from these two, an unbelievable amount of care and love from these two. They were laughing, they were celebrating everything you could ask for. That's what they were doing. It was just so lovely to see, so amazing to see. And again, it's just everything you want from really your top two stars. You want to see that, right? Neither of these two are heels. It doesn't matter. There's just a great love and appreciation that they had for one another after putting on an absolute classic. This is a tournament classic in every which way. Everyone I've talked to has said, I, I need to watch it again. I need to see this. I need to, yes, whatever you do. If you are listening to this review, I ask you, go watch this match. Go watch Utami versus Mayu. It is my favorite tournament match of the year. It is everything I love about professional wrestling. It's everything I love about these two as wrestlers. It's everything I love about Joshi. You get the point. It's everything I love about this sport. A fantastic match, a fantastic story from start to finish. Two rivals reconnecting once and for all. Just absolutely fantastic. The draw brings Utami to a stunning 9 points with one match to go against Kouki Amarei on the final night. An absolute stunner in that respect. We'll see how that all goes. In terms of Mayu will have Kouki at Shinjuku face. She'll have CHIAKI over the weekend, and then her and Victoria Yuzuki face off on the final night. Mayu's only have 5 points. She's still in it, but she's gonna probably need to beat Kouki and CHIAKI to be fully in the conversation on that final night. An incredible match between these two, a must-see match from the Dream Star. I recommend the last 3, truthfully. Here, I haven't shown this in a while, but here we are. Your worth the watch matches. Match of the tournament, Mayu Iwatani versus Utami Hayashishita. Listen, this isn't changing. I'm telling you now, this isn't going to change. Unless the final is unbelievable, this match is not going to change because this match was everything I love in tournament wrestling. This match was everything I love in pro wrestling. I can't say it enough. But both MIRAI versus Mai Sakurai joined the great section, and then the very good section we added Miku Aono versus Chanyota. Awesome stuff all around from this show. And with that, that is all, folks. I'll do an MVP update. Actually, you know what? Let's do that right now, shall we? Let's take a look at the MVP update. I think it's hard to follow the MVP because so many people have different matches left and so on. But for me, it's Victoria Yuzuki. The point averages may be a little bit off because Yuzuki has so many more matches. But here we'll take a look. Right now, Mayu technically leads at a 3.50 and Miku Allen's at a 3.42. So they do lead. But I think Victoria Yuzuki is going to take the MVP in the end. Or actually, Utami. Utami's through 6 matches and she's at 3.42. So it comes down to Utami or Yuzuki, I think, when it's all said and done. But Mayu's still in that conversation. Miku's still in that conversation. They both still have so many matches left. The MVP is wide open. I do think Yuzuki, in terms of consistency, deserves the respect. But we will see. We will see when we get there. But here is your check out for match. I have to add to match of the tournament, obviously. But what a fantastic show. What a fantastic main event. One of my favorite matches of the year. It would have got its own check it out if I didn't do these daily series. That's how much I love that match. But with that being said, check it out. Check out the show. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you everyone for the continued support of these daily reviews, of these continuous YouTube uploads. It means the world for me. I hope you all have a great long weekend. I hope you all just have a great time watching wrestling. We'll be back on Tuesday with the review from Shinjuku Face for the Dream Star Grand Prix, and then Friday for the 5-star Joshi show, as always. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Make sure you check out the 5-star from yesterday if you haven't already, and make sure you leave a comment, leave a like, and subscribe if you haven't already. Comment, though, below. What's your favorite match of the tournament so far? We're doing 8 days of the tournament. What has jumped out to you? Please leave that below. But that's it from me. Thank you so much to everyone for listening. Thank you so much to Mayu and Utami for having that match. And until next time, everyone, so long. See you later.